Hello and welcome to a new weekly feature from Tees Life. It's Boro Backtrack. I'm Dave Allen and I'm delighted to welcome as our first backtrack three of the men behind the most successful period in Boro's history. That was the great era of 2001 to 2006, the Carling Cup triumph, UEFA Cup runs. We'll be talking about all that very soon. We're going to be joined by a man who needs no introduction to Boro fans, the only manager to lead Boro to major silverware success. That's Steve McClaren. Hi, Steve.
Dave, how are you?
Great. Thanks for joining us, Steve.
Pleasure.
And joining Steve, two of his trusted backroom team from that great era. We're joined by Coach Steve Harrison. Hi, Harry.
Hello, Dave.
And also a man who was at times assistant manager and also always had the hat on as sports psychologist for the club, Bill Beswick. Hi, Bill.
Hello, everybody.
So thanks for joining us, guys. I was proud to be the football club's media manager during that great era. So I'm looking forward to reliving some of the memories with you over the next 45 minutes or so, that golden era. Before we begin, I doubt many will argue that football and pizza are two of the best things in life, and we're all missing the football right now, that's for sure. Domino's on Teesside have brought two of those together by supporting Tees Life's Boro Backtrack. So thank you for Domino's Teesside for supporting us today. Okay, let's get underway. You all joined Boro in the summer of 2001 that you'll remember, along with a backroom team. I remember there's goalkeeper coach Paul Barron, and Steve Round was also on the coaching team too. But as I recall, I don't know whether he was your very first signing, but he may well have been, but possibly your most important signing, a certain Gareth Southgate, a man that, Harry, you knew particularly well from your time at Aston Villa. And obviously, Steve, you decided that a big part of your transfer budget should go on a certain Gareth Southgate. And was that really about leadership qualities that we're now seeing on a national scale as the England manager too?
No, I think the most important thing is really to start right at the beginning and say, well, where did the budget go? And the best money I spent throughout the 5 years was on recruiting Bill, Harry, Roundy and Paul Barron, without a shadow of a doubt. Without them four around me, I'd have crumbled and been sacked and gone quite a few times in that 5 year period. They held the fort. They managed me very, very well. Bill was kind of the hub of the whole thing. Everybody went to Bill. Any troubles with me, and they were the best. I knew Bill really well, Roundy a little bit. But Harry and Paul Barron were recommended to me by Dwight York. And I'd always admired Harry, coaching with Peter Taylor, England. And Dwight York gave him a glowing reference, fantastic reference. And also Paul Barron, that not just a great character, great in the dressing room, but also a very good coach. So some I knew, some I didn't. But we as a team of five needed in that first 3-4 months to be very, very strong. And I realised after about 6 months that I'd made the best signings in them four people. And Bill has always worked with me at Derby, so we had a good relationship. He looked after me the most and kept really the staff from my door many times. So really on reflection, you're only as good as the people around you, and I was fortunate in terms of that. Yes, I got the right staff and I needed the right team. The dressing room needed sorted out. 30 pros, 15 from the academy. Remember the first day, you remember that age, trying to sort them out. And I said, after the first day, I said, well, one thing, we're going to struggle for a while. Second thing, the future's going to be bright because the academy boys are better with the ball than the pros were. And thirdly, us five need to be as tight as anything because we have to be strong against what was a strong, experienced dressing room. And my best signing was Gareth Southgate because he came in with that great professionalism, exactly what we wanted, epitomised what all five of us were looking for in a player, in the dressing room, on the field. and he epitomised that. And gradually, as Bill might tell you, the inner circle, we didn't have many inside that inner circle in the dressing room from the first day. He was the first one, and he dragged everybody in. So we had a strong inner circle and a strong staff, and that took us forward.
I mean, Harry, you'd seen him at Aston Villa and worked with Gareth quite closely. I'm guessing that even then you'd seen his leadership qualities, but you weren't imagining there's a future England manager in Gareth Southgate.
No, not really. He was an intelligent fella. I mean, I knew him as a kid, really, at Crystal Palace when I started. And he used to turn up with his school gear on, collar and tie. And he was very polite, very proper lad. He was a midfield player then. And so I worked with him at Palace, I worked with him at Aston Villa, and it was at Villa where I saw his quiet leadership qualities, really. He was not demonstrative at all. He was quite down to earth. He was even keel. He was logic. And and as the gaffer was saying there, he was the stability that we needed, and it was a great signing because he added a new dimension to the dressing room, in as much that he was people respected him straight away, not just because of his playing career, but his reputation as a man.
Bill, what about yourself? Your memories of Gareth, and what qualities did you see in him? Because I know you were always assessing players and personalities from a psychologist's point of view.
Well, one of the things that Steve and I decided very early on was that we needed to change the culture at Boro. The prevailing culture at Boro when we arrived was not as professional as we wanted it to be. There's a little bit of a social element in Boro, to put it politely, and we needed to refocus everybody in the club on achievement and the hard work that goes to make it. And that's not an easy task when you've got a lot of older players on pretty good contracts, resistant to change, new manager, new staff coming in. So Gareth was a symbolic move for us. Well, cultural architect. We put him in the dressing room.
Carry on, Bill. We lost you a little bit for a second.
Sorry,
there.
Dave.
Back with you.
All right. Okay. Well, Gareth was
carry on.
very important to us.
Gareth's role.
Gareth was our cultural architect. He was important to us in the dressing room because, as Steve said, the example he set. He was ultra professional, ultra integrity, good man to have around. And we found that a lot of the squad went with him because they realized that was the way to go. And that gave us the critical mass in the dressing room to start do his great coaching work.
Helped set those standards right from the start, and I think Gareth certainly did that, didn't he? Gareth wasn't the only big name signing of that era, of course. There was people like George Boateng, Juninho, Mendieta, Jeremy, Bolo Zenden. But one man that you decided that you could do without, or that you couldn't rely on, perhaps, is a man that had great abilities. But please tell us about why you decided a certain Alen Boksic wasn't the man to carry with you. Steve, you've got to start on that, because a wonderful footballer, wasn't he? No doubt about that.
I mean, the only reason why we survived in that first season, he was the only one who could score goals. He was a maverick, independent-minded, bloody-minded, wanted to do his own thing, but he won his football matches. And we had to accept that as a staff. And we could only really get the backing of everybody if the players accepted him as well. And they did that. I remember having a conversation with some of the leaders and saying, okay, he doesn't want to warm up with us. Okay, he doesn't want to do the work. Okay, he's lazy. Okay, he doesn't want to do this. Okay, but he will score 15 to 20 goals, which will keep us in this league. So that's what we said. The players accepted that, his weird ways. And he was high maintenance. And you can't keep going with high maintenance players all the time. And players eventually will move on from that and get fed up, as will staff. And he was fantastic in the first season. I had a really great relationship with him. I meet him now. If I met him in the street now, and I did a few years ago, we hugged each other. And he really thanked me, because I think we let him go. I think the chairman kindly paid him up. And he showed me a picture of a yacht. And he said, thank you, Mr. for letting me go. You helped me buy this yacht. So he was cruising everywhere around Europe on this yacht, in which, when he got released, he got paid up.
He wasn't struggling.
Sorry?
He wasn't struggling without football.
No, he loved football, but he loved it in his own pace, in his own way. And he was a great character, and he won as many games. I always remember that game at Manchester United. And, he came to me, it was a great story about it. And basically, we didn't have to, we got him to play, and then we got him to Croatia to join up with the national team and meet his family. But I said, we need you, Alan, we need you on Saturday against Man United. So he's great. He played the game, we won 1-0, he scored, gave me a great big hug at the end and said, thank you, mister, for that's one of the best days of my life, beating Manchester United and me scoring the goal. And I think it was a case of these mavericks, they're useful to the team, they have a time span, and we was always looking to recruit other people in, younger people in, because it was coming to the end also. And so it was just time. He accepted that. And I think it was 18 months we had, it wasn't a struggle. I loved the man because he won his football matches. But, the boys, Bill and Harry, probably have more stories behind the scenes than I know about.
Yeah, come on, Harry. You're never short of a story. You must have a memory of Alen Boksic for us.
Well, I've got a few. I remember we went down the training ground where we did our session, and we were having an eight-a-side. The gaffer was watching from the side, and all of a sudden, Ince's getting annoyed. Paul Ince's getting annoyed about things. And he's looked around, he says, well, why are we getting beat 3-1? And I said, I don't know. As we looked up, Alen Boksic, he's walking up to the dressing room. Just walked off the eight-a-side and up to the dressing room because he was pouring down. As he does every now and then. He was lashing down. He just walked up, never said a word, walked up. So he says, I'm not having that. I'm having him in the dressing room. All the lads went marching up the hill into the dressing room, and Paul Alen Boksic is getting changed. And he went, oi, what about you? What about you, eh? We're all having a nice eight-a-side, and you, because it's raining, you walk off, come back in the dressing room. Yeah, you with your 20 million in the bank. And Alen Boksic said, no. From Friday, 22 million. Well, it's
And Bill, as a sports psychologist, you must have found Alen Boksic an interesting specimen.
Well, he was typical of the professionals that we inherited, in that they were extrinsically motivated. They were at Boro for the rewards, the financial rewards. The chairman had bought them there, and that was a bit suspect in our minds. That's not very good motivation. Whereas the academy kids, Steve mentioned before, and we had enormous success with the academy players, Dave Parnaby, etc., doing great work. The academy players were intrinsically motivated. They wanted to play for Boro. That was their thing. And that gave them so much more power and energy and persistence. So Alan was typical of the extrinsically motivated people. He was there for the money, and that he was quite clean about that. But there is a good story. I'll follow Harry's story in the sense that everybody knew how much money was on, but nobody dares say it. It was too big a sum. But in the training field, the week after the Ince story that Harry's just told, Ince went through Alen Boksic in the practice field. I'm sure he was holding it back and decided he was going to do him. And he did him. And Boksic is prostrate on the floor, and the players gathered round. And Harry ran to him, raised 4 fingers in front of his eyes and said, Alan, how many million am I holding up? The secret was out.
Harry, is that true?
I'm afraid, yeah, that's right. And once he started to recover and got up, I was off.
Get out of there. Right, and
quite right.
so brilliant characters, and two characters that I do have to ask you about, both left backs of that Boro era, French Franck and Mad Dog, Franck Queudrue and Emanuel Pogatetz, two more different players and different characters, but both brilliant characters for the Boro, weren't they? I'm going to, Bill, you start. What's your prognosis on Queudrue and Pogatetz?
Well, it's artist versus soldier. Franck was an artist. He was brilliant, Franck. He thought like an artist. He didn't think like a fullback. He was a good player, but he thought like an attacking player. He was creative. He was very artistic. Whereas Pogatetz was just a soldier. I mean, he had minimum talent, but maximising it by knocking into people. He was a good lad, and he made the effort every time, but he was always on the edge. He was clumsy. He wasn't a refined player. But both of them did well for us, and Franck did especially well. He brought a lot of qualities to it. I remember Steve having to fight to get Franck. I mean, Franck was 100,000, and I remember being in a hotel in Worsley, Stevie, in your room, and you said, "I'm resigning. I'm going to ring the chairman one more time, and I'm resigning if I don't get this player." And you picked up the phone and rang Steve, and you got your 100,000. We got Franck, and Franck then became part of our history.
Absolutely true. I wasn't going to tell that story, but you're absolutely right. And thinking of Franck, as you mentioned it, Dave, earlier, I do get cold sweats over Franck. And I watched a couple of games back this morning, and what about that handball penalty at Man City in the last game of the season? What was he doing? And that's French Franck. But you're absolutely right. I remember watching him in the first session that we had him on trial. Have a look at him for a week, this agent said. And his feet was great. He was more of an attacking player, outfield player, very good with his feet. And I wanted to sign him. And eventually, and Steve was great. Yeah, okay, you can have him. We got him. Then we signed him, and then somebody showed me a YouTube video of him playing for his old club, scoring an own goal. I don't know if you saw it, Harry, but he scored an own goal, which was incredible, the most incredible own goal I've ever seen. If you ever get it on YouTube, have a look. And he, about the halfway line, 40 yards out the goal, somehow he kicked it back, volleyed it back over the goalkeeper's head into the goal. And I thought, oh my God, what the hell have I signed here? But for whatever me and Bill know, Harry had a great relationship with him.
Yes,
He's got some great stories on him. And Harry knows him better than anybody, because what Harry did great and introduced on a Thursday afternoon. I remember the first time he did it. He's walking out with a bag of balls, some disc cones, and 8 defenders. And I'm going, what the hell is he doing? And Paul Barron said, oh, he's doing his defensive work with the defenders, the back four, does it every Thursday afternoon. I said, I'll be knackered Saturday. Paul Barron said, don't worry about that. Don't worry about it. And we watched Harry doing it. And they were the best sessions that we had. Thursday afternoon, defensive sessions with Steve Harrison, an absolute masterclass. And Harry will go on talking about that, but he did have trouble with Franck defending.
Franck, what are you doing?
Go on, H.
Part of the soundtrack to that era of Middlesbrough was Steve McClaren shouting "Franck" across the.
Harry was right behind me.
Now, Harry, I know you loved Franck, didn't you? But I know you've told me before that he liked practicing his free kicks more than he liked practicing his defending.
Well, yeah, the two lads are nearly on. It was lovely what Steve said there. He was a challenge, Franck. You couldn't help but love him. I mean, all the town took to him. He was a flamboyant Frenchman, good-looking lad. But he had a great character, great personality. He was always smiling, or most of the time anyway. And he was a lovable lad. But there was two of him. And I always said, Franck could win you the game, but he could also lose you the game. And Steve, very early on in his managerial career, he recognised that fact, and that's good management, knowing that, yeah, he's going to frustrate the life out of us at times, but in the main, he's going to come out top side. And Franck wore his heart on his sleeve. He was a typical Gallic, open lad, and I loved him to bits. It was hard work, but it was a challenge to do that. I remember it Phil Stamp.
Yeah. Yes.
He used to play Monday to Friday, and he kept taking one Thursday afternoon. He kept taking Franck on and skidding him all the time. And I said to Franck, don't get frustrated. Just try and adjust your feet and blah. And he's kept it. And I said, well, I think your stance is not quite right. Well, tell me what you think, Franck. And Franck said, Harry, he's a good player. No analysation. The fact that Stampy was a good player. But Franck did the business on a Saturday more ways than one. And I remember a time we were doing free kicks, and I was on the halfway line looking after the defenders, and Franck was with me, himself and Gareth Southgate. And he's mumbling. I said, Franck, what's the matter? I should be up. Corners 4, I can score goals. I should be scoring goals. I should be there. I said, hey, Franck, you're needed here, mate, because you're a right good defender. We need you keeping the back door. Like, no, I should be scoring goals. Anyway, as the free kicks and corner kicks started coming on, he got a bit bored. He started whacking balls about. I said, Franck, don't whack balls now. The gaffer's talking top. So he said, Harry, Bill was stood by the goals with his back. And he said, Harry, I will hit Bill on the head. You have no chance. Anyway, he hit this ball, and as soon as he left his foot, if Bill had ran 100 yards, he was going to hit him. And it hit him straight on the his glasses. And he landed in the heap. And Franck turned round and he went, Harry, I have hit him. I went, I know you.
True story, Dave. True story. I was next to Bill. I watched him crumble, fall to the ground. I thought he was dead.
And if you remember,
Harry killed him.
If you remember, Steve, I'd been drinking in Santorini's the night before with the owner, and I was worse for wear. And that hit on the head was the last straw on my day. Franck, I'll kill you.
Seriously, Dave, he just walked in and we let him walk in. We said, take the day off tomorrow, Bill, take the day off.
And Mad Dog Pogatetz, Harry, you worked with him quite a lot. About his temper was a thing that you had with him.
Well, he was a very determined, lovely lad, lovely kid, and gentle off the field until he got riled. But once his eyes started to twirl, you know there was trouble. And I just used to bring him on Fridays. Many times I'd just walk him down the field after he'd been practicing something, because if he couldn't get too much, he started to, the steam started to come out of his ears. So I'd walk him down and talk to him slowly and say, you can get this, you'll get this, but just take a little bit of time as long as you're patient. Now, you promised me you're patient, and I'll promise I'll be patient, and we'll get. And he would listen to you. You had to take him out of the action when he really became a bit fierce. But what he did, whatever Poggy had failed at, he failed trying. And I loved his attitude, his openness. And he was great material. And I always thought he'd end up playing centre-back, really, because of his stature and his style.
And he did end up playing centre-back, didn't he?
He did.
And was very solid there as well, too.
Yeah.
That's where I think, as I recall, he got his injury in that Basel game that we'll come to a little later.